my god. Is that T. Susan Chang? Oh my god. Is that Mel Moline? Oh my god. Is that Ethany? Is that Patrick Valenza?
Is that Arwen? Oh my god. Is that Lisa from Mindful Tarot? Oh my god. Is that Tom Benjamin? Is that Angela Nacios? Is that Robert Place? Is that Rachel Pollitt? Is that Rana George? Is that Donna Leigh Della Rose?
Oh my god, is that?
I don't even know who that is. But I want to. So, Reader Studio 2019. My first ever Reader Studio. I was starstruck the entire time, but I'm not ashamed to say that because my fandom is Bhakti. I think the first thing I noticed walking into Reader Studio was how comfortable everyone was with themselves, and then by virtue of that with me, and then by virtue of that me with myself. Because love and fear are these things that travel, you know, like really, really fast. You can walk into a room that's full of love and all of a sudden you know that everyone's the same. We're all on the same page. We're all on this common ground. Or you walk into a room of fear and all of a sudden we're all isolated and self-hate and guilt and all this stuff. So, pretty much every time I walked by somebody, like, they were not afraid of eye contact. They were not afraid of a smile. They were not afraid of that moment. My theory behind this is that I'm going to use T. Susan Chang's words, the backstages of reality. Beautiful words. My theory of this is that when you're with a group of over 100 people that are working consciously and unconsciously through these backstages of reality, through different modalities of divination, tarot, all these methods, we have this common denominator of knowing and understanding that is just, part of it is curiosity, but part of it is the contents of whatever that backstage is. So whether we want to kind of go Jungian and look at it as like the evolutionary archetypes that we've inherited, or if it's maybe the astral plane or whatever it is, but that underlying or overlying place of images and feelings and deeply curiosity and wonder that we're all coming from brings a level of love and trust and acceptance and a lack of fear. And that is the first thing I felt when I walked into Reader Studio. Another thing that I'm thinking about in my reflection period is how different presenters and different speakers, different everything, have used tarot in different scales. Sasha Graham, for example, gave this amazing presentation where she took the Seven of Cups, and from the Seven of Cups used that as a map of the 7 cornerstones of magic. And I feel like that's a really cool way to zoom in the tarot, but also to zoom out at the same time. And then other speakers kind of zoomed out and contextualized certain methods. For example, Heather Lee Navarre gave an amazing workshop on scrying, and she really showed us the history of scrying through different cultures, but then we also had practice too. So I really love when I love contextualizing things in history because I don't know history very well. So it's very interesting to me. It gives me a certain traction of understanding, and it gives me a certain sense of reasoning. Because I'm a Capricorn, I'm a little bit more skeptical than the rest of the signs. And that's another point I want to bring up is skepticism. So I kind of joke and say I'm a skeptic because I'm a Capricorn. You see what I did there? It's ironic. It's a paradox. Okay. But in any group of psychics or light workers or healers, I'm usually one of the most skeptic of the group. And that's another thing that I loved about this Reader Studio is that there was no judgment, and that literally, like, there was magic happening. There was magic happening, and it happened, and people weren't afraid to talk about it. One of my favorite moments was on Divination Day. Many of the speakers said, or one of the speakers said, we need to stop being afraid of the F word, fortune telling. And I thought that was so cool, because in tarot culture, we're so afraid of that word, and I think the practice of tarot has gone through a lot of different garments. And I mean that in no disrespect, but how you can incorporate tarot as in-life coaching or as intuitive reading or as this and that. It was cool to hear someone boldly say, yeah, what I do is fortune telling. And that was inspiring. Another thing about being a Capricorn is, if you didn't know, we're pretty addicted to status. It's one of our very superficial traits. But we value status, and that's because we value hard work. And we know a lot of times when I look at somebody's status, I see their body of work. I respect their body of work. I respect their consistency. I respect the mountain that person has climbed. Goat reference. Going into Reader Studio, I'm very surrounded by a lot of people that do this type of work, but not as much. But what's more rare is someone that does this type of work consistently and deeply and professionally, and like writes a book about it or like 5 books about it. That's amazing, because especially when people are not afraid to continue to research after such a long time. And I felt like the presenters were researching with us. It wasn't just like, okay, here's the thing, here's the dogma, here's the information, here's the textbook. It was like, hey, I made up this spread, I've been working on it for a couple years, I'd like to research it with you. And I love that kind of thing. That's another thing, the curiosity. It was so beautifully rampant among this group of people that it felt like so many things were possible on different levels. In the practice, in the work of divination, tarot, but also on the communal scale. In the ways that I think it's when you have such collective interests, you create what a fancy occultist might say, an egregore, right? But you create this energy, this group energy of the something, and this synergistic force happens, and all of a sudden, we're all benefiting off of that. And that was mentioned too in the conference. That was definitely said, like, things are going to work here better than maybe in other contexts. And I definitely felt that. Oh, I almost forgot. I performed there. So I'm a multimedia dance artist, and I got to perform my work in Nomine Pan, which is an invocation of the Greek god Pan and Capricorn and the devil card of the tarot through kind of a queer lens. One of the cool synchronicities with that was George Corey has been working on his Peter Pan tarot spread for about the same time as when I started the process with this dance. So that was really cool. He's one of the nicest guys ever and so wise, and I have so much I've learned from him and I have yet to learn. But yeah. So anyway, I got to perform this piece, and I have to say that out of all the performances I've done in my life, and I've done a lot of them, New York City, nationally, internationally, this one performance was one of the most gratifying and fulfilling of all the performances. And my theory to that is very similar as what I said before, was that I think with so many people searching the backstage of reality, they just recognize more elements in the work than muggles. No, I'm just kidding. That was such an asshole thing to say. Not muggles, but you know what I mean. Like obviously they're going to see the esoteric connections, they're going to see the occult connections, they're going to see the tarot connections, and they're going to have a more visceral reaction to it. But it goes beyond that. It's not just informational, it's energetic. This group of people is so energetically sensitive and emotionally sensitive in a positive way, in an empathic way. I mean, I had people coming up to me in tears after this performance and hugging me, and that was amazing. And again, I don't know if I said this, but when I'm really in my work, when I'm really, really in the work and it's successful, it's really not me. It's not me. Performing, choreographing, it's other things. It's other influences, it's guides, it's just like a tarot reading, right? We kind of, in certain ways, get out of our own way when we read cards. We kind of eject ourselves in certain ways. And I don't know, I just felt like people saw that in a good way, like they saw the history of the work and the virility of the work and the curiosity of the work that I presented, but it was beyond me, and I think we got to share in that experience. We got to share in that backstage of reality space, T. Susan Chang, from which we are curious and abundant with archetypes and feelings and all this inherited beautiful nonsense that is part of the human condition that maybe perhaps a lot of people don't want to explore or are afraid to or are choosing not to, but yet here we are digging through this stuff, right? You know, decorating it with alphabets and numbers and images and systems and mythology. And so being with such a large group that is into that was really cool. Really, really special. Yeah. So yeah, I probably won't ever perform for anyone else but Reader Studio. I mean, that's it, you know? Best place ever. Obviously, I have to thank Ruthann and Wald for having me and letting me perform and totally embracing me. Like, you two are two of the smartest people I've ever met. I remember when I first met you very recently, I was just blown away by, within a minute of meeting you, we were already talking like some serious philosophical stuff, which is my jam. You know, small talk is really hard for me, but I just love to dive in quickly and curiously. And I also have to thank Erica Robinson for motivating me to get involved with this and supporting me. And it's been so great working with you, Erica, at Earth Spirit, and I'm very excited for many more years of it. So yeah, thank you all for coming out to see me perform on the weekend. And more importantly, thank you for your time. I can't tell you how many people were so comfortable just stopping what they were doing and talking to me on this amazing weekend and asking and like really like, you know, chatting with me and hanging with me, and everyone was so friendly. And I think, you know, if we could just keep doing what we're doing, we're gonna save the world, you know? Let's keep doing it. So thank you all. I definitely want to be more connected with this community, so I'm going to try my best to stay up to date on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. But feel free to reach out to me with whatever and thoughts. I'm always, always, always ready to geek out with tarot and the occult and anything related. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you again.